Now that I've built the door panel, more or less, it's time to install it into the texture. So I create a layer for the door panels, first of all, in the texture XCF. Then I go to the texture itself, the new texture. And I have to verify I know where I'm putting it. And this was actually a discovery that the whole UV map was reversed because it was basically for the outside rather than the inside of the interior, which defeats the purpose. Or at least it makes it a little bit confusing. So I decided to flip it. And as you'll see, I make a mistake because you notice I don't have the entire model selected. That means I don't get the whole UV map. I thought this would make it easier, but actually it doesn't do this for the UV map as a whole, which is very strange because it's all the same material. So another little detail I discovered about Blender along the way, one of its idiosyncrasies. And this is even when I select it all. See, like it should still be good because you can see it there, but later on I find out that's not the case. So I export the layout, which is correct, actually. This is partly how it caught me by surprise later. And then I change the layout layer in the XCF file. First of all, I realized that I should change the name of the layout file and give it a white background like I prefer. So that's another step in the process here. So then I load it up with the new name, and then I add the background. So I have to, first of all, get rid of the alpha, as always, to get the black background, which then becomes the white background. Paint bucket tool, there, there, and there. And there you have it. So then I have to save, of course, but in this case export because I want to keep it in PNG format. And then we select all, copy, and then we have to delete the old UV layout layer. So select all, clear, and then paste in the new UV layout, and it's actually correct. There's nothing wrong with it. So I now will change the labels after anchoring it there. I have to check everything though. Also, of course, these dividers have to be moved as well. So actually the dividers come first. So first I take a look at where the UV map for the sides ends, just double checking. This is all zoomed right through. A lot of steps skipped here to save time. And back to GIMP. And we move those dividers before moving the layout labels. Double check. And it's as simple as selecting all, cutting and pasting, and then moving. Cut, paste, move. And I'm going to skip through most of this because it's tedious. There's one example. So the others are off and they'll have to be fixed. So skipping past that step, I have to copy, or rather cut and paste the labels and put them in the correct place. Then it's back to the core of the project, which is these door panels. So first of all, I have to create a targa with no layers, which will then be copied and pasted into the main texture. Get this out of the way. And so give a smaller view there so that it's easier to select all. Copy and paste. And of course it's the wrong size because this isn't all to the same scale. So first step is to scale it down. Actually, first step is to rotate it. And after it's rotated, the first step is to scale it down. And then we move it, and it's still the wrong size. So scale it down again. This is a rather laborious process, but I've mostly left it in because it's the core of what this is. It's not just a little tweaking here and there. Scale down to 500 pixels height now. Let's see how that does. Closer. So I've anchored the layer and I've brought the opacity down so that we can see through it and match it up with the UV map layout. Notice it has its own layer, which I added at the beginning of this. That's very handy right now. So we select it, cut and paste so that it's easier to move. Scale, again, has to be a little bit smaller. We'll try 400 pixels. It's still too big, surprisingly. A lot of this stuff can be a little bit confusing. And as you'll see, the shape is not ideal either for the UV map. The UV map is not perfect because the model is not perfect. I mean, among other things, there are no door sills in the model because it's a very simplified model. I don't have the measurements for the real car, and this is for the most part, a scenery object. And even if I put it as a playable car, the interior will probably not be interactive. It'll probably just be to improve the exterior model, because most car racing video games have their own gauges on the screen in a sort of HUD arrangement. So you're not really using the gauges of the model or the interior of the model very much. Because a lot of people just use the exterior view, which I don't really like. It's kind of to me, it's very old-fashioned. Very 1980s. Anyway, as you can see, I've been moving this around, fiddling with it. Now I'm trying the perspective tool. Perspective tool is very handy because often the shape or the proportions of your texture, bottom line, are not ideal for the UV map that you have, even if they're perfect from the perspective of real life. And as you'll see, this is not going to be the last edit of this. I'm going to have to fiddle with this, and fiddle with this, and fiddle with this. And it's partly why I have two parts to this. And in fact, this part is nearly over because I'm running out of time. I'm almost at the 10-minute mark, so I'm saving this, as you can see. And I will be back with the next part. See you in the next video.